Okay, today is going to be much more of a chatty video than I normally do, but one of the things that I put up on Contribui and Patreon is I was asking what order people want me to talk about videos, and one of the things I said I would do is talk about all the things that I'm planning to plant this year. I've already done a garden tour, but I want to show you the actual plants that I'm looking to grow this year. There are a few flowers because you need flowers. You want to encourage all the bees and the pollinators to have a good crop of anything. But there are a few different things that I want to try and get done in the garden. The number one priority this year is being as food self-sufficient as possible. I don't think I really need to list the reasons why. I think a lot of people are starting to think about possibly growing things in their garden. So that is my number one priority. But the second priority is to grow as much food as I can for the quail, because obviously, since I'm a bit concerned about our own food needs, if I can't afford food for myself, or it's going to be a little bit hard to pay for food for the quail as well. And I'm trying to make both myself, my family's food security a lot stronger. I also want to make the quail's food security a lot stronger. I'm doing that by planting essentially a quail food forest in their enclosure, so that at the very least, while it won't completely replace their food needs, it will at least supplement it. So that's, every little helps. And another thing, the last thing that I'm trying to do, and it's kind of two things, is make the garden pretty and also as low maintenance as possible. At least I've found that when things get really rough, having little things that cheer you up and that you find beautiful make a huge difference to your mental health. So it's a combination of two things. I want to get the garden looking very beautiful, and even if you're just growing vegetables, you can achieve that, but I'm also planning to grow quite a few flowers, and particularly in the middle of the garden, I want to have an area which is just kind of a hub. And I'm also going to be turning part of our lawn into a meadow. I actually have meadows mix, and this is going to be going down a whole strip of the lawn. So the lawn that is the closest to our patio, that area I'm going to be covering in white clover, not red clover, because red clover doesn't survive being mown very well. Now, we're not really planning to mow at all, but if for whatever reason the compulsion overwhelms my husband to mow, then he can mow that area and I'm not going to be seriously annoyed because he'll have killed my plants. So I will be planting clover there for improving the soil structure, for fixing nitrogen, and also for food for the quail, because clover produces a lot of seeds, and this is one of the plants that they eat in large amounts. So I want a secondary area that will be apart from their cage. Outside, it looks beautiful, it encourages bees, it fixes the soil quality, fixes nitrogen. It's a very useful plant, and I wanted to do this 2 years ago, but I've only just managed to heavily encourage my husband to be okay with it. So half of the lawn is going to be clover and the rest of it is going to be wildflowers. This is going to look gorgeous. It's going to give us loads of flowers, which I can then use to decorate the house. I can also use that, it's going to encourage bees. Eventually, I do want to get bees. Now, I've only just gotten the quail, so I'm going to try and be good and not instantly jump into beekeeping as well. But once I know I can keep the quail alive, I might get some bees. But either way, having a garden that's full of flowers is going to help just the local bees. So the meadow mix is going to be going down a strip of the lawn, so that we have one part of the lawn where all the plants that grow there naturally grow quite low, and then another part of the lawn where you're going to have wildflowers. So obviously that's going to grow quite high, but I am going to kind of make a little bit of a separation between the two. So that's the plan for the garden and the direction I want to go in. Now, I don't need this because that is all my various bits and bobs for gardening. So in here, normally what I do is I have cut up milk bottles. All the milk bottles that we get, I cut them up into these, so that then I can take a permanent marker, I can write what I'm growing, and I can stick these in the seed trays so that I know what's growing in the seed trays, and then I don't have to buy tags for my plants. Another thing that I do is every single little bag that I get through the mail, I will save them. And this is for seed saving. So any of the seeds that I've made myself, like let's see, the chickpeas, the corn, what else did I do? The Mizuna, I've got seeds for nasturtium, beans, I think those were French beans. I've started seed saving a lot of the food that I'm growing, and I'm certainly not going to slow down this year. So every little bag that I get through you know, the mail, buying little bits and pieces. These little bags pop up everywhere. So I save every single one of those, and that's for when, at the end of the season, I start seed saving. So all of that goes in this little seed box here. And this is just a little bit typically me. I do like my pretty boxes. Okay. And then everything else gets stored in 2 different old mushroom trays. These are the seeds that I planted, so it's kind of out of circulation. And then the other box is seeds that I have yet to grow. March is a little bit of an insane month. Everything grows in March. March is pretty bad. April's a little bit better. I have a huge list of all the plants that I need to grow. So what I did at the beginning of this year is I sat down, figured out what plants I wanted to grow and made a big list. So I'm going to show you that. Now this was an incredibly overambitious list, and stupidly I'm still adding to it. But what I did is I wrote down the plants that I want, highlighted when they need to grow, and then a rough idea of where I want to plant them in the garden. So I've got things like kale, clover, Swiss chard, tobacco, but I'll talk all about that as I show you all the various seeds. So this is the first one. This is Foxtail Millet. These are actually seed saved from last year, and I'm currently growing a whole load of extra ones for the new quail enclosure. So that's going to go in their quail enclosure. Then this is what's left over of wild bergamot. Now this I'm growing for the flowers and also for the tea uses. Bergamot tea is wonderful. So that's going to be another addition to my kind of tea herb collection, I guess. Then over here I have rainbow chard. I've already planted these. So these are all the things that I've already planted. So I'll be able to show you what those look like. At the moment, the polytunnel is just every single shelf is completely taken up with trays, and a lot of them are just improvising because I don't have enough pots. I've tried to save as many pots as I could get my hands on over the last year, but it's still not enough, so I'm going to be improvising a lot. Hopefully, I will figure out a way to make it work. I have some beets, which are probably not going to germinate because these are very, very old. But even if some of them germinate, that's great because I'm not fond of beets, but my husband loves them, so I'm going to grow them for him, but I'm not eating them. I do not like beetroot. Swiss chard, I'll eat that. I will not eat beets. Unless they're kind of pickled or fermented or something like that, but otherwise beets just makes my tongue want to run away from my face. Another thing I'm going to be planting, and this is obviously going to be for the pretty part of the garden, are some China aster seeds. These are going to look gorgeous. Unfortunately, they're annuals, so I will have to seed save these. But I've still got some seeds left, and these should last till 2024. So I've still got some left. So if I mess up the seed saving this year, I've still got enough for next year. Then I have some red cabbage. So I think the red cabbage had to be planted a little bit later on in the year. If not, then I've completely missed Cabbage March. Oh no, I do actually need to plant these. Right. I've got some red cabbage, and I've never planted these. These were actually a gift. I think I bought some seeds, and this was the freebie packet that I got. This actually shouldn't be in here. This needs to be in the planted section, so that's going to have to move. More beets. Again, planting them because I love my husband, because otherwise I would not be planting them. And then some Greyhound cabbage. I have an absolute ton of these. I've actually already planted tons of them, and I don't know if you can see how many I have left. But that's great because I am going to let some of them go to seed and try and collect them myself. But if I mess up, I've still got seeds for next year. Then I have some common speedwell, and this one I'm getting, that's for my herbal, medicinal herb part of the garden. And from what I remember, I'm still learning about some of these, so I can't always remember all the details, but this one's just kind of a general immune improver. And as someone who has a nice collection of autoimmune diseases, anything that improves my immune system sounds wonderful. So then I have Mizuna. This is everything that I've collected, and it's in the world's most bodgy seed packet, but it works. And this is something that I've never heard of. My in-laws gave it to me last year. I planted it, loved it. I could not believe how fast it grows, how nice it tasted, and how easy it was to collect the seeds. So this year, I'm definitely going to let it go to seed, but I'm also going to collect the seeds for the quail, because this stuff, I couldn't believe the sheer speed that it grew at, and also how many seeds you get out of it. So that is one that will definitely be planted this year. This is something that I got from my sister actually, and I know it looks like a bunch of rosebuds in a bag. It's actually tobacco seeds, not for smoking. I kind of like singing, so I will not be growing it to smoke it, but it's very useful as a pest repellent, and it's meant to be a natural insecticide, so I will be growing that. My sister's grown it now for 2 years, and so I'm constantly picking her brain for that. Then we have rainbow carrots, which I'm really, really looking forward to, and I'll definitely be seed saving these because I just want a bit of variety in my food. And it's going to be, how cool will it be to have purple carrots or yellow carrots and just having that in a salad and be just the colours, it's going to be gorgeous. And then in here I've got tons of lamb's lettuce from my in-laws, and this one actually is going towards the quail. That's one of the plants that absolutely has to be in the quail cage. And on that topic, I have some perpetual spinach, which will be grown in the garden for us, but also a whole load of it will be going in the quail cage as well. And it's kind of good because with the quail cage, because I'm going to be putting plants in there and leaving them, and the area that they're in the garden doesn't get frost, even in the dead of winter. That area, I had nasturtiums growing there up until the 30th of December when I moved them further out in the garden, and then they died. But the nasturtiums were in flower in December. It was snowing, but that corner of the garden just, it must be like a little heat pocket or something like that. So I'm really pleased because it will be a lot more comfortable for the quail, but it also means that the plants that I put there are going to be able to grow all the way until they naturally bolt and go to seed. So it's going to be great as a way for me to not use up some of my raised beds, to leave something in there for a long time to go to seed. I can just leave it in the quail cage, it can go to seed, I can collect the seeds, and it's just a bit more of an efficient use of space. But spinach, perpetual spinach, is another one that I'll be growing for both us and for the quail. This one is another one which is a medicinal plant that I really want growing in the garden. It's also really important for bees and pollinators. And this is milk thistle. I've already planted a load of these in pots, and yeah, I am looking forward to that because they're beautiful and it's a very important medicinal plant which I can't use yet because I'm still breastfeeding. But as soon as I finish breastfeeding, you can bet I will be using this plant. Then onions, white, I've already planted these. Loads of these. I could probably plant more, but I'm trying to save seeds for next year just in case for whatever reason I can't get seeds. If some of you remember during lockdown there was a massive seeds rush. I am not anticipating that getting better anytime soon, so just in case I'm saving all the extra seeds until I know that I can efficiently seed save. It's still a massive learning curve, so I don't want to rely too much on my very amateur abilities. And then I have some onion. Actually, I haven't planted. I completely forgot I had this one. This one is a variety called Lilia. This was also a seed that I got for free in a bunch of seeds that I bought, so I haven't tried this one. I do actually need to plant that one pretty darn soon. I might have missed the boat, but we will find out. Then there's a marigold seed packet, and this variety is called Bolero. And then more marigolds. These are going to be going all over the garden. They will not be going in the quail cage because from what I remember, this isn't massively good for quail, so it will be going everywhere except the quail cage. And then finally I have the Roma Tomatoes. Now this is third generation seed saving. We started growing these in the first lockdown, and since then this will be the third year growing these. They're currently in the polytunnel and growing in pots, and these are all the extra seeds, which, as I've just mentioned, I'm saving all the extra seeds that I don't have to grow just in case. So yeah, it's actually really, really easy to seed save tomatoes, and that was my first attempt at seed saving, and it worked really, really well, especially if you pre-ferment them first before you save them. So that's everything that's in this tray. And then over here, these are the things that I still need to grow. And it's also continually getting added to. I know I said I would be good and I would only grow what was on this list, but yesterday I bought some Polish turnips and something else. I can't even remember what it was. I shouldn't have done that, but I did, so. And then here I have some cabbage. This one's a variety called Rufus. Again, one of the ones that I got for free. I've got a load of nasturtiums that I saved from last year. And then what I like to refer to as the world's most faffy seeds. This one I got from the States and it cost a flipping fortune to buy. It's called Slender bush clover seeds. And this one's for the quail, and it's an incredibly vital part of the quail enclosure because all the seeds fall down in winter, which is very unusual for a plant. Normally all the seeds and the grains and everything that quail naturally eat just falls down in the autumn, but this falls in the winter. So this will be a great supplement for their area, so that even though I'm obviously planning to feed them, if for whatever reason feed gets really, really expensive or whatever, I want to know that their enclosure is built as perfectly for them to thrive and survive in as possible. So this I have finally managed to germinate, and I don't know how well you can see it, so I'll just move the cling film. But there, can you see all the little places it's growing? So I should have about 9 bushes worth of these. Oh, that one's mouldy. You can get out of there. I do not need you contaminating the rest of them. And yeah, I should have some of these bushes, which I'm really excited about because they're really rare actually. I think in some places in the States they used to be common and now they're completely extinct. So I'm happy that I have a rare plant and that it's thriving, and I'm happy that it's hopefully going to help the quail thrive as well. So that's the Slender Virginica is the name. And then I have some butternut squash, which for me is an absolutely essential survival food, I guess, because you can put it in the it does need a good amount of sunlight. It does also take over everything, so ideally you want to build this on an arch, or what you can do is you can plant it in your compost bin and it's going to go mental and it will grow so well, and the heat is just going to make everything grow great. You can put it in just the really crappy areas of your garden, if you have a spare area of your garden where you don't really want to waste, you can't really grow much else. I have actually grown this in a bucket before, so I had the actual root and the plant in the bucket, and then you can kind of move it around the garden. Now once they get too big you can't do that because the vines are going to be everywhere, but this for me is a vital food to grow because it lasts all winter. If you put it in a dark, cool place, these will keep all winter. So they're a great just storage food, and there's a reason that it's classic peasant food. It's relatively easy to grow, you don't really need to do much to it, and it stores forever. So this one is very, very important. Then I have some Welsh Onion. I have tons of spare seeds of this, but I have loads of them growing in the polytunnel. And once they've grown, it's a perennial. So once I know that I can definitely grow these, I'm going to give them to a few friends who will find this useful, or I'll grow it for them and give them the established plants, because having to deal with germinating the seeds and making sure you keep them alive until they're properly established is a right pain in the neck. So I might do that and then give the actual plant to a few friends. Then over here I have some green shaft peas, which I've never grown before, but it's going to be fun. And what I really like, what I'm hoping to do is I really want to get a chest freezer this year so that any of the extra produce we get from the garden, I can save it. And things like peas are going to be pretty vital because both my children love peas. And if I can get them to eat something green without protest, that sounds wonderful. Then here I've got sunflowers. This is for a few different reasons, partly for the quail, obviously they can eat the seeds, and also for decoration for us. So the idea is that I grow them, I cut them, I keep them in a vase until they start to look manky, and then I seed save them for the quail, so kind of double use. And also the bees, you should see how bumblebees go mental for sunflowers. When we had a row next to the polytunnel, there were a few honeybees, but the bumblebees loved them, so that was always really nice to see. And then I've got some carrots, early Nantes, and I actually need to get these cracking, so oops, that's another thing I need to do today. And then these are some I seed saved from my in-laws. I can't actually remember the variety of these. I'll have to ask my father-in-law because he's the one who gave me the actual little seedlings last year, and they grew so well. So I saved the seeds, and this year I'll be growing them again. Don't know the variety, I'm afraid. And these are some leftover chickpeas from the chickpeas that I grew in the garden. Honestly, after eating fresh chickpeas, I don't think I can go to eating the dried ones again. Fresh, small baby chickpeas are just, it's like green sweets. It's delicious. And yeah, it just doesn't compare. You know, the dried ones just do not compare to the fresh green young chickpeas. And also the very early shoots kind of act a little bit, you can eat those too as well. So this one will be going in the polytunnel. And that also, another thing I'll do is any extra that I get of this year, I'll save for the quail as well. Pretty much everything extra that's a seed or a grain is getting saved for the quail, because I really want to see how much of their food I can grow myself. If I can grow it all myself, that's wonderful. Then that's essentially free eggs, so that's fantastic. And then here I have some radish. This is going to be for us and for the quail. So some will be going in their enclosure and some I'll be growing in the raised beds. And I found it, what I really liked is these I actually got from Aldi. Not Aldi, Lidl. I didn't realise that Lidl actually has a very decent seed section and it's dirt cheap. And I saw that and I kind of had a little bit of a party with it. I came back home with about 12 seed packets, which were not on my plan, but they were 43p. I couldn't help myself. On the topic of couldn't help myself, I got these, which are a watermelon variety called Sugar Baby. And I remember this from every time we used to go to Spain when I was little. This for me is just the taste of summer in Spain, so I had to grow it. It's just, oh, I can remember the taste now. Just sweet and watery and delicious, and I cannot wait to grow these. In here I've got bush lake beans. These are ones that I grew myself and I seed saved. This year I'm hoping to be a bit better about them. I didn't really plant them in the best way yesterday, so they grew enough for me to collect more seeds, which was great because I had 2 seeds at the time. We did eat some of them as well, but this year I'm hoping that I'll do a better job at growing these. And those were Blue Lake beans, I think was the name of the variety. In here I've got some tiger nuts that I grew. Now I've got to say, even though I know you get drinks like Courgettes, I actually hate these. I don't know if I'm ever going to grow them again, but I have a few friends who might find them useful, and anyone who likes to fish is going to know what tiger nuts are and will want them. So I might let them grow in an area of the garden that I don't care too much about, but they will not be taking up space in any kind of valuable raised beds, because that has to be for food that I actually like, and I don't like this. So temporarily in my seed tray until I decide I can't be bothered, and then I'm probably just going to soak it and give it to the quail. Then I have Brussels sprouts. Now I know a lot of people hate Brussels sprouts. I actually love them. Brussels sprouts, when they're honey roasted with a bit of cashews, a little bit of poppy seeds, a little bit of walnuts, but kind of finely ground walnuts. Oh, so a bit of salt, add salt, honey, pepper, a little bit of ground walnuts. If you want to be a bit daring, you can add a tiny little bit of chili to it. Oh, it's good, it's really good. So I will be growing Brussels sprouts. And if there's anyone I really hate, I'll just give them an uncooked version and they'll never come back again. I have some parsley, which I am not fond of parsley at all, but I'm growing it because I love my husband. The things we do. And then in here I have some cucamelon, which I am hoping to be quite, I think, smart with growing this. Apparently you can grow this up tomato vines, and the way I grow tomatoes is in buckets. So the idea is that I'm going to plant the tomato in the inside of the halo. Then on the outside I'm going to have some basil growing just in between the gaps, and because you can plant this really, really close together, the idea is that you plant this next to the canes supporting the tomatoes, and then it grows up the canes. So you're getting 3 plants growing in one bucket, which would be, if it works, an incredibly efficient use of space. So hopefully that will work, and I'm really looking forward to trying these because they look amazing. They look like tiny little watermelons, but they're cucumbers. So I could pickle those, you can use them in salads. They'll be nice just to pick off the vine and just eat like that. So I'm excited about this. And then I have some cucumber. Now cucumber is going to be a bit interesting because it's probably the least storable food that I'm growing. I'm growing a lot of parsnips, carrots, squash, potatoes, things that store quite well. So this is very much going to be eat them while they grow and then say bye-bye for the rest of the year. But my son adores cucumber, so I have to grow this for him. And then I have dill. Again, I am not hugely fond of dill, but because I am planning to pickle an awful lot of our food, I kind of need dill if I don't want it to be the most bland pickle of all time. So I'm growing dill. And also the flower is gorgeous and it will encourage loads of bees. So I'm okay with that. Then I have basil. Now I know you can get purple basil, but somehow I've managed to resist buying the purple basil. I might end up doing that. I might buy it and just save it for next year, but for the moment this is the only one that I've got. It's also really good, if you grow it next to the tomatoes, it's really good at keeping quite a lot of pests away. So far we've had no pests attack our tomatoes, and I mainly attribute that to it being in the polytunnel where it doesn't really get wet, because any water that's in there is water we've added ourselves. The halos, which means that there's a very small surface area where the soil ends up damp and you can get spores. Also because we grow a ton of marigolds in the polytunnel, and because we have basil growing right next to them, which is a very useful companion plant. So this is one that we grow every year next to the tomatoes. And then I have some cabbage, and this one's called Drumhead. Now this one was also, actually I think I bought this one myself. I don't think this one was a kind of freebie packet that came with other seeds. This one, what I'm hoping to do is get a load of raised garden planters right next to the patio area, and I'm thinking of putting the cabbage here in there. But it all depends on whether I actually manage to do that before the end of the season. I think I've still got a bit more time before I have to plant this, but if I've missed the boat, then it's fine. I'll just plant it next year. This is good till 2025, so I've got time. And then this one, which is called Curly Scarlet, is a kale. And I actually like this one. There are a lot of varieties of kale that I detest with a passion. This is not one of them, so I will be growing that. Then another little purchase. Oops. This one was another little purchase, and this is courgettes. And I love this because it looks like a watermelon. I have a lot of trauma related to courgettes because school dinners were not fun with this. I remember having a meal, I don't know what age I was, I must have been 12-ish, maybe 13. And don't ask me what they were thinking, but I remember getting a meal of soggy courgettes in hot vinegar, watery, stewish kind of thing, and it's as disgusting as it sounds. But this is round and it looks like a watermelon, so I am willing to give it another shot. I could just scoop out the inside of this, save the seeds, and then if I do a mixture of, let's say, corn, bacon, a couple of seeds, poppy seeds, do a little bit of Chinese chives, a tiny bit of thyme and a tiny bit of rosemary, and cook that in the middle, oh, that's going to be good. So I'm going to try and get over my trauma related to courgettes and actually grow that. Then I have some, nearly killed my seeds. Then I have some Blue Soleils, I think is the name. I've already planted these. I've still got a few left. These are good till next year. So next year will be the last year that I can use these seeds and actually have a decent germination rate. But I'm deliberately planting quite a few of these to seed save. So that should be fine. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Then I have an absolute ton of snowball turnips. Again, peasant food, and that is something that I'm very much focusing on because otherwise I'm going to be eating like a peasant. And I have a hunch that my ancestors grew a lot of this. The reason I say that is because my family for at least 600 years were farmers, midwives and teachers. They would have grown a lot of peasant food. Then I have Parsnip White Gem. I have 2,600 of those, but I'm also planning to seed save these as well. So that's the plan anyway. And now last but not least, because it's incredibly important, now I These are Ukrainian seeds, I think. I bought these a few months ago. I bought some red amaranth. Now this is for medicinal purposes, for eating purposes, and for quail purposes, because the whole plant is edible, the whole plant is medicinal, and the seeds, which there are a lot of, are excellent for both us and the quail. So this is a plant that I'm hoping to plant all over the garden, specifically in the quail area, but pretty much all over the garden, because it's going to be absolutely vital. And if I grow enough of this, I'm hoping that it will go a long way to growing a huge amount of the quail feed. So that is the plan. Now, hopefully I've just shown you everything. I'm sure I have a few more seed packets knocking about which I have forgotten about, or maybe outside. But those are the things that I am planning to plant so far. I might go a bit mental and try and grow some more. Bear in mind that this is only my 3rd year trying to grow our food. The first year was very basic. I focused on keeping the tomatoes alive, the potatoes alive. Oh, potatoes! I forgot the potatoes. I have some potatoes chitting in the shed at the moment. And then there's obviously all the things that I planted in the garden, the fruit trees, the plum, the cherries, the nectarines, all that kind of stuff. And I do want to get my hands on some grapes, but I'll get there eventually. I'm trying not to go overboard, but I like gardening, and it's a very good time with the current state of the world to start gardening. So I'm not really going to beat myself up about being a little bit over enthusiastic and trying to grow everything, because I'd rather try and grow everything right now. But anyway, before I get onto too much of a depressing topic, oh, completely forgot. These are some jalapenos, which I'm growing because I accidentally killed my chili plant. I used to have a beautiful little chili plant that grew right there, and then we had a cold snap in January, and unfortunately I completely forgot to move it from the windowsill and it died. It did not recover, and I was heartbroken because I haven't had to buy chili flakes in at least 3 years because I grew it on my windowsill, and now it's dead. So I'm having to grow something to replace that. So those have finally germinated, and I'm very excited about that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that those are mostly everything that I've bought. I'm most certainly going to buy more in the next few weeks, but hey, it's not the worst hobby to have. So yeah, that's a quick, semi-quick look at what I'm going to be growing over the next year. Let me know if there's anything you think I've missed, because I'm very happy with the variety of like potatoes, squash, parsnips, carrots. But if there's a plant that you think, oh, it's really easy to grow, you get a lot of food out of it, that maybe I don't know about it, let me know, because I'm probably going to want to buy it. So yeah, those are the seeds that I am planning to grow, and I will have a lot more gardening related videos soon, especially on the quail, which you've probably heard in the background doing their lovely little squeaks. I'll have a lot more videos all about that. If you want to vote on what videos you want to see next, I always have lists up on Contribute and Patreon, so vote on those so that I know which one is more important to you, and whatever gets voted highest is what gets uploaded first. So yeah, that's my video. I'm sorry it was quite informal, but it didn't really need to not be informal, so I didn't see the point of that. And I kind of just wanted to have a chat about all the wonderful little seeds I'm going to attempt to grow this year. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to grow, and I'll have a new video for you soon.